Welcome to the kbbreview podcast, and welcome back to the second part of our special series in association with Cyncly. In part one, a few weeks ago, we met designers Hugo Castro from Wilson Bathrooms in Glasgow and Manish Hirani from Moiety Kitchens in London, and we started our look at how they use Cyncly products such as Virtual Worlds and Winner to take their customer through a journey. The link to that episode is in the description for this one, if you haven't heard it, and I do recommend it. It is really interesting to hear how different retailers and designers work, I think. In that first part, we looked at what happens during the initial consultation and how good designers can use the software to visualize and narrow down the client's vision in a way that can really sell the dream. In this second part, we'll pick the journey up after the client has said yes, and how these Cyncly software packages can then be used to tweak, hone, and adjust the details to get to that final sign-off. But first, if you want to find out more about Cyncly, its full portfolio of products, which stretches way beyond the KBB sector, and how it puts the user and customer front and center, then go along to cyncly.com for all you need to know. That's Cyncly, CYNCLY.com. I'll put that link in the episode description, where you will also find a link through to the first half of this two-parter. So, Manish, we've had the initial consultations. You've put a spectacular concept in front of them and they love it. But even at this stage, there's a lot of detail to decide on. So how important is it to be able to do those changes quickly? Because back in the day, rendering high quality images could take, let's face it, a long time. But these days, it can be done so fast that it must make a huge difference to be able to get those changes back in front of the client almost straight away.
Well, it's of huge importance. As I say, the software produces drawings, and those drawings are important all the way through the process of designing and selling and actually delivering a kitchen. The software is quite user-friendly, so being able to make these changes is relatively easy, and it's always required, because what you've got is you've got theory once you've sold the project, and then reality is when you've gone onto site and taken the actual measurements, and thereafter there's bound to be changes and slight tweaks, and the customer's gone home and had some sleepless nights about the colors, and they're umming and ahhing. And the software is really user-friendly in order to make these changes that are always needed.
And what about you, Hugo? Real-time changes. It's a statement of the flipping obvious, I think, but it must be so useful to be able to make those changes with the customer sat in front of you.
Yes, absolutely. Obviously we always need a starting point when we are trying to create the right environment, but that's just half the way. Sometimes, client look to the software and said, right, not so sure about this style. And so rather than going home and me updating, it's very, very fast. It's just, okay, let's have a look on different styles. How about that one? And pretty much in real time, the software gives you the possibility to just replace, and the client automatically can see the difference. I'm talking about tiles, but could be a different product, could be a different tap, could be a different color on the wall, whatever it is. It's very, very fast to make this play around with, even with the client in front of it. It's interactive, so the client work with us, with designers, and it's actually quite interesting to see them like, oh, this is really interesting how you guys do things. So yeah.
And that's a very interesting point in itself, because yes, this is a software package, but it is allowing you and your design skills to be given free rein in real time in front of the client. And as far as they're concerned, it must make you look great.
Well, I don't do this to feed my ego. In the end, I'm doing this to a person, to a client. And that is obviously our concern in this company. It's that the client has the most pleasant journey as possible. Obviously, the software will help us through that journey. But in the end, my biggest concern is that the client has a very clear view of what is going to be their room, regardless if it's going to be a bathroom or a kitchen, right? So the interested point, it's they can do the same steps as us designers and give us feedback of how about this, how about that. And it's very easy to play around with the software to show them the different possibilities. So in the end, I'm working for a client, I'm working for a specific individual. So I just want them to be happy with what they do. Because sometimes we designers, we are doing something that probably it's not our cup of tea. But again, we are working for a specific client. So we need to aim towards what the client wants, not so much what we want. So I put it aside my personal ego and work around that.
So, Manish, this ability to speed things up, to make changes seamlessly, to make decisions on the spot, it must enhance your customer relationships too, because they must feel much more involved and part of the design process rather than a sort of passive observer of it.
Yeah, I mean, with CompuSoft Winner, it's slightly different. So if you wanted to make slight tweaks on there, yes, you can make them on real time, which is of massive importance when it comes to customer service. Or another way of doing it is, if it's a lot more detailed work, then you'd want to go away and get a more polished design before you send it back to the customer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think it feels like they're much more involved in the whole process. They feel like they're working together to achieve something special, and that can only leave them with the best warm, fuzzy feelings about you afterwards.
Absolutely. And you can always send them pictures of various different versions from various different angles. I mean, this software is of huge importance to my business. It's one of the first softwares that I bought as a tool to help me sell kitchens.
So, Hugo, let's move on to the next stage, which is the final presentation. The final images you're putting in front of them that they can sign off and you can start ordering. How important a role does this software play in that final push over the line?
Obviously, when we are achieving that point, because visuals use catalogs from the manufacturers, so all the product that we actually put on the card, it's 100% of the product, or let's say 95%. Obviously it depends on the complexity of the object, but most of the time everything is spot on in terms of what the client is actually seeing. At that point, we can pretty much customize every single detail, from what color do you want the grout for tiles. So we can put annotations on the software of every single detail. So when we go to an installation phase, the software will generate drawings with pretty much all these annotations, apart from fitting lists and all of that. So normally I'll create also these drawings. We'll send drawings to the client just for approval that we have touched every single detail that the client wants. Again, maintaining a really good line of communication. Things can change during job, but as an end result from what is the studio and go directly to on-site, I will say the software help us 95% of the work. The rest is just tiny details.
And I'm guessing you concur with that, Manish, the idea that everything at this stage needs to be as easy as possible for the customer, because ultimately it's all about keeping them happy, isn't it? And making their experience with you as seamless as possible.
No, absolutely. So the software is of huge importance to me. And what I do is I spend a lot of time creating my visuals, because the consumer would go to various different places to go, but it's a competitive market. So you want to make sure your drawings stand out from the crowd. And I really believe with CAD softwares, the more information you put into it, the better the results. So it's all about attention to detail, really, and making sure you've asked the right questions to the customers and making sure that all of those details have been articulated in your drawings, and that should really help you with your sale and at least your presentation, so that the customer can really see all of the details of their new space, and they'll get a really good idea of what it will look like. And you got to also remember, it's all done to scale, so all of these drawings are done to proportions. Yeah, it's of massive importance for the customer journey.
I think it's very easy to forget how rapidly all this technology has developed. Even just 10 years ago, it was nowhere near where it's at now. And everything you've been describing just shows how it's become absolutely business critical. Hugo, where do you see this going from here?
I think the part that evolved more in the last years, it's the 4D experience, the possibility of actually putting goggles and be inside of the room. So you have a clear sense of space awareness. When we do a simple render, it's good to obviously the space, how it's going to work with colors, materials, lights, but the technology have evolved for all this 4D experience, which is a massive game changer. Not only now our customers can actually interact with the objects, from opening doors, there are already possibilities to open tab, switch lights, switch off things. It's really immersive. This type of software that we are working, at least here in UK, are very retail environments. I used to work with different packages, which is more for architectural environments. So I was using different softwares. They are really good, but this type of softwares here, like Visualise on CompuSoft, are very, very focused on a niche of market, which is retail, which creates the possibility of flip around a room really, really fast and give a good sense of space awareness to our clients.
Yeah, one of the big developments for me is that it's moving away from just being a practical design tool to being a customer experience tool as well. That's what makes it a full package for working retailers. As you say, yes, you can design with it, but it also helps you sell it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people need to look to this type of softwares as a marketing tool. In this environment now, retail, this is not just a software to do pretty things. This is actually a marketing tool. And if you don't actually use this, it's going to be very, very difficult. I mean, I still know people that hand sketch things, not criticizing them, but if you show them something that it's 100% of the product that you're selling, there will be a clear understanding of the client, no second thoughts. So for me, this is a marketing tool.
100%. What has been bolted on CompuSoft Winner is a product called Winner Flex. Now, this allows a real consumer interaction. And so as Hugo touched on, it's very much focused towards the retailer. So with Winner Flex now, you can have a chat conversation and you can make any changes. So it's almost like a WhatsApp message service, and it's all done through Winner Flex. So yes, it very much helps as a selling tool.
Yeah, and I think that really demonstrates what this is all about, ironing out all the bumps that might get in the way of the client saying yes, the design, the communication, the customer service, the ordering, making it all as smooth as possible so they don't ever really notice it. Right, Chows, I'm afraid the clock has beaten us. Thank you so much for sharing your time and opinions across these 2 episodes. It is genuinely always interesting to hear about the nuts and bolts of a designer's life and how these tools of your trade make it all possible. So thank you again, Hugo, and thank you, Manish.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that was Hugo Castro from Wilson Bathrooms in Glasgow and Manish Hirani from Moiety Kitchens in London. Really interesting insight into how important these packages are to their businesses. Both of these special episodes have been brought to you by Cyncly. And if you want to find out more about them, then go along to cyncly.com for all you need to know. That's Cyncly, CYNCLY.com. That link is in the episode description, where you will also find a link through to the first half of this discussion, as well as the first special Cyncly show we did looking at the story behind the company. I'll see you next time.